Welcome, St. Louis, and welcome to another episode of Top Corner Talk. Hopefully, you all have enjoyed your holiday and Memorial Day. So, thanks to all of those that kind of sacrificed their lives for our freedom, not only the U.S. but all across the world. So, it's also greatly appreciated for you guys to join us. Maybe another session of therapy, rambling, crying, maybe, but mostly discussion of St. Louis City SC and the loss to Colorado slash Cronky slash I don't know. Jeremy, how you feeling?
I was okay until you mentioned that name. That name, man, that I can't get over that. No, Mo, we had a lot of fun late night on our watch along. That was probably the only thing that made that game somewhat enjoyable. Too many missed opportunities, too much, just too much of the same. And we do have a guest tonight. I want to welcome Derek Balman to the program. Derek, thanks for joining us tonight. What do you think of the game on Saturday night?
See, exciting, then frustrating, and then more frustration. So it's disappointing, to say the least. But they're our team. We're going to keep supporting them. But I would like to see things turn around a little bit better than what we've seen here lately.
Exactly. So yes, so I think that was a very eventful game, pretty much, right? So first, Muddy Nature decided that the guys should only play about 7 minutes or so before they go back in the locker room. From where we're standing, it's like maybe there will be a deja vu of the Cincinnati game, but that was actually the complete opposite. Colorado actually came in a lot stronger during their very short break. So Jeremy, first half, how did you take that game? Because the pundits on Apple TV were kind of like, oh, there was almost an even match game at that moment.
The first half, there was fairly even. I believe it was scoreless at the they got their goal right before the break in the 41st minute. We seemed, in my opinion, had the better clear-cut opportunity. Cedric Toyshirt missing a one-on-one versus the keeper. But, honestly, outside of that one moment, there wasn't a whole lot. We had the ball, sure, 49% possession, 6 shots, only 1 on target. So, and that shot was the one by Toykert. So it's frustrating. It was just more of the same and not enough in that first half. It seemed like we should have, at least in the first half, had something to build on, but I don't know. Olaf was happy with it. Mo or Derek, what did you guys think the first 45?
Well, I was going to ask your opinion on what Toychuk had the single shot, right? He had the breakaway. Yeah. And then we take a look at what happens after the play with Klaus trying to get the rebound, being in a bad position, and then falling again. So what do we do to get those people back in the positions? And what do we do to get that thing to go the direction that it's supposed to? I don't feel like the finishing is there. It's either, is it because we're out of shape? Is it because we're not following the certain program? What is it that we're not doing that it's not, our strikers are not being able to get to where they need to be at?
Oh, that's a loaded question. Do you want to take that first, or
I think so. The first thing in that goal kind of came off of a turnover, right? It came off of a high turnover at midfield, put us on a break, and Toyshirt. So first of all, I have to say, for a guy with that pedigree, you expect better from Toy. He's got to put that in the net, right? Like first and foremost, that's kind of my first thing. The second piece, I don't know if it's fitness. You figure Klaus probably was sprinting in behind. I don't know if it's a fitness thing. You also don't know. Well, he did, but also, Olaf has said for the past week or so that Klaus has been dealing with a calf issue. I don't know if that's playing into anything, but more than anything, Mo, it's something you and I have talked about a lot on this program. This idea, and Derek, we've probably talked about it a lot at the games ourselves before matches, is we defend so much as a team that our guys are not in that position to capitalize on those second and third balls. We are so far behind because a guy like Hartle or Klaus. Klaus was there this time, but if Hartle was nowhere near the ball, on the right-hand side, I don't know who else was there on the right in the attack. No one. So we don't even have a guy to challenge you to try to even initiate a press, because why? We spent so long getting back into position to defend that we can't spring forward in a quick counter like that with beyond two guys. That's my biggest takeaway from that moment.
It's the transition.
Yeah.
Yes.
From there, because like your center midfielders need to be able to transition the ball. That's the whole idea of what the formations are playing right now. So being able to transition from backfield to forward, they're not able to do that. So, and we're always constantly having our strikers come back. So yeah, they're going to be gassed when they get up there and they have to sprint forward, right? And they're getting gas coming back. It's constantly. So I mean, even Toyshirt anymore does not look like he's fit like he was last year. It just, in my opinion, that's how I feel. So,
yeah, and I think that for me that was the part that that kind of highlighted the whole sequence. Yes, he missed that 1v1, but also at the same time, if you think about it, since Klaus is supposed to be our number 9, right? So he's typically still at the very top. If you watch, like, if there's a goalie, like a 1v1 versus a goalie, right? Usually you will see that your left and right flank players will actually sprint with you. So that will give you the chances of, like, if you know you cannot pass the goalkeeper, it's an easy tap in because all you have to do is lay it over to the right or to the left. He didn't have this opportunity because Klaus, he's the one that actually caused the error. But he was also way back next to Berkey when he needed to play in defense. So before we know it, Klaus literally is playing as a forward, midfielder, and defender. And he's not in that type of shape or player to do that. Of course, he's going to have an injury, a little nick on his muscles because, hey, he's a striker. He's not supposed to do all of that and above. He's supposed to kind of save his energy in the midfield. So when there's this type of error, he can sprint forward. But I think the other part too, if you look at the second minute or so of the game, sorry, unfortunately I don't have the clip, but if you watch when Wallem was actually, he crossed the ball in the box and he went straight to the goalkeeper. If you watch, Turco was actually close to him, was asking the ball to be passed to him at his feet. But Wallem decided to cross it towards, and that's where the goalkeeper catched it. And if you watch Tuka's expression, he's not happy because he was asking for that ball there. It's just sort of the disconnections between the midfielder and the forwards. That's why we're not able to complete those passes to give them the opportunity to score. And after that, that's kind of led us to the Tuka part. You probably heard me multiple times, right? The midfield is what we're missing. The creativity in the midfield is what we're missing 110%.
Yeah.
Klaus, and we keep on saying it, the first year, the reason why Klaus was so productive and was able to score so many goals, he was with the last defender all the time. He was breathing on them. That's why they were causing the errors. That's why he was able to score goals. He cannot create that same opportunity now because he's trying to catch up with Turco, Hartel, Wallem, the guys that are faster than him. So that's why we're missing that. Yes, Leuven is missing as well, but what happened to the other creative midfielders? We don't only have Leuven, right? We should be able to have someone else that can be the connection between the two. And that's why we're missing. I think we watch all the other games on the MLS. You see the sequence, right? These guys have, like, within 15 seconds, they have 5 or 6 passes. We have probably 2 passes.
It's always the third touch.
Yes.
If you watch every time, your first touch is good, second touch good, third touch no bueno. It doesn't work. So it's always a transition through the midfield. So then we got to decide. Well, we got to go out to our wingbacks, but are our wingbacks fit enough to do what they need to do? Because those are really heavy lifting positions for that formation that they're playing. And are they going to be able to keep that up for 90 minutes? Not always.
We don't have those guys anymore.
Well, we don't. And even with that, you look at who's on the right in this game, Akil Watts, like, not to get into too much into the weeds of the positioning and the players available, but I don't think he's your first choice right back, right? Totland is the guy you want there. So that's going to throw you off. And then, so much now with Hartle drifting out left, is that hurting a guy like Volum from getting forward on the left? Is that complicating that because you're crowding that same space? Or even when Pompeu comes on at the half, how much does that hurt those guys? Because a guy like Pompeu, and I know we haven't got to the second half necessarily, but he needs that space. That's when he's most creative and most dangerous, is when he can get isolated one-on-one. But if Hartle is over there too, bringing defenders with him, because they're look like maybe not man marking Hartle all the time, but he's bringing defenders with him, it's going to limit that space that Pompeu has to work in. So I don't know exactly what the game plan is there for those two, but I felt like that was a lot of the problem we had trying to build out wide in that game at times, is we just had too many guys crowding the same spaces and half spaces.
Yeah, and we're too easy to cover, right? If you watch the game, we're like bunched in one, which is kind of scary because, when we coach the younger kids, we like stop bunching in one area. You almost see it at this moment. If you watch, we always count 4 or 5 city players in the same area. When we get scored on, we see 4 or 5 city players at the same time. And like you said, right, Wallam is not able to do the creative work he can because he has to put in the back of his mind too that he also has to come back in defense and help. Versus of, hey, I may have lost the ball in my square, but now you guys have to worry about it and come back and pass me the ball so I can move forward. But no, he has to spring back. Even for guys that are in top shape, which I guess we can lead to that part of later on, it's still a lot to take on.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, does it go down to also about our depth? Because granted, we have a ton of injuries, but do we set aside? Like, we need a better depth chart. Okay, so who's coming in to fill in next? I just don't know that our depth is not there compared to other teams.
Yeah,
you need to fill in those spaces.
Typically you're supposed to have 1 and 2 are like maybe very top of the league, and then close enough to the top, and then after that you're supposed to drop down at your 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Clearly, we see there's that disconnect because we take other players from different position and slot them to guys that are tired.
How many people do we have at league minimum now that are starting due to the fact that we have injuries? That's kind of where I'm going with that.
That's a great call out, because that's massive when you talk about the not only the fall off but you equate the fall off in salary and compensation to almost a lack of quality, right? Sometimes those things can go hand in hand. But I think my biggest question, and it speaks to the problems we've had probably since week 2 or 3 of the season, depth, especially at the wing back position. Because if you're playing a formation that, and Derek, you hit it on the head when you talked about the importance of us building through our width, right? Our wide guys, Volum or Totland or Akil Watts. I don't know how, if you are Lutz Pfannenstiel, that you don't go out in the transfer window and find a depth piece, because that, after we signed Alfredo Morales, granted he wasn't the guy on my radar or a guy that I thought we needed, but we needed depth in the center midfield. We did that in Morales. We knew there was going to be a glaring hole, because at that point we knew we had Volum and nobody else on the left, and we had Totland and nobody else on the right. Yeah, can Akil Watts do a job? Sure. We thought Jay Reed, and Jay Reed might be able to, but he was hurt. He's just coming back. So it's a failure to manage this roster, in my opinion, and it's a failure of your sporting director to go out and fill the gaps you need, because clearly, whether it's Lutz or Olaf, they don't rate the options you have at City 2 to do that job. So that's hamstrung this team, in my mind.
Well, you're going to have injuries, and you need to prepare for that. That happens no matter what league you're in. So you have to be prepared to be able, who are we going to send in? And are they going to be able to step up and do the job? Now, I'm not saying none of these guys can't do it. Either they're being mismanaged or we're just picking the wrong people. But it needs to be, let's figure out who we're going to have before we have just our starters. who's going to fill that role when they have to step off, and can you do it?
Yeah, and I think we bunched them on center backs, but then that was, and then they all started to drop like flies, and then you go from your first string to your fifth string, who happens to then get the brunt of criticism for a lot of the work or the lack of work.
So I think the other question too is, as we bringing the chat into the conversation, is I see Silva, I see Pompeu. They're named as guys that should be getting more time and more looks. And so it does ask, why not? First of all, at this point, you've got nothing else to lose. But do they
talked about
right? But beyond that, is it just Olaf doesn't trust them to do the job defensively because he's demanding so much of those wingbacks defensively? Do you think that's the problem? But I still want to see more of them because they're two of your most dynamic players. I mean, especially Silva out wide. And yes, look, I know it was against Omaha. I know that's a third-tier team. But if you saw how dangerous he can be with speed out wide on the right in the final third, there's potential there that I want to see more of and see if that can be capitalized on with our attack that often looks lethargic and clueless in the final third.
Right. Well, we're winless. So it's like, why not? Put him out there for 90. He's not going to probably go 90. But why not start him? Why you have to save him for the second half? What's it going to change at this point? You're already not winning.
Right.
Give it a shot. And just throw something different at him. Give him some speed, like you said, Jeremy. Give him that creativity for the first half. See what happens. Then let's try to go the other way. But that's why you bring them on.
And I'm wondering if it's maybe not trusting his defense to carry the load for players that necessarily won't come back in defense, because right at one moment when Sergio was getting that playing time, Olaf was big on him to say, hey, he's the type of player that I like as dynamic players that give us more opportunities. It's just that as we're starting to lose more games, then his playing time just started going down and down until almost non-existent.
But we're taking him and putting him in the second half. So he's saying he's not coming back on defense, or he's not. But we're waiting until never giving up a lead.
Right.
So put him in first.
Or even in the game against Colorado, you're chasing that game for a whole half and a little bit more, and you don't see Silva come on until the 80th minute. I mean, granted, look, I'm sorry. No, it's not. This isn't meant as a slight on Silva, but few players in the world are going to change a game in 10 minutes.
No, there's not.
So I don't understand why it's such a late change.
It can happen, Jeremy. Just nobody on this team.
Man, 10 minutes. It takes them 5 minutes just to get the groove of the game. But also, there's one thing that's showing from, and kind of give a little credits to Colorado and all that too. But did you see who actually scored against us? Right.
Darren Yapi?
Yes. A homegrown player from Colorado. He's what, 20?
His age, off the top of my head,
was like 19, 20, right? Just putting a player that has something to prove. You see how dangerous it is no matter what they are or ready to play compared to what we have at this moment where there's not much trust put into any players that's not part of that starting 11.
But the question is like their youth program has been going on longer than ours.
Yeah.
They're supporting players that are feeding those people the ball are doing a little bit better than ours. So, taking a chance on some youth players, I think fantastic. Let's do it. But having somebody to support those youth players is going to be a very big part of getting them to be productive. So we got to say like, oh, well, Leuven's in, he could feed the ball to him. Perfect. Stay where you're at. We're going to do this, but we just don't have that. We're always going back to the transition through the midfield. It is non-existent, and that's going to be, you can put whoever you want up front. They're going to have to come back and help you defend. They're not going to be in position to be what they need to do.
No. Real quick, I do want to ask you both about the goal. So the goal came in the 41st minute Darren Yapi from a cross out wide into the box, where it looked like City should have been able to defend it really well. They seem to have guys back in position within their zonal marking scheme that they do. The ball gets, it didn't look like it was really intended for Yapi, but he cuts it off, is able to get some space in front of Josh Yarrow and then turn and get a shot off between Timo Baumgartel and Josh Yarrow. It did look like it took a deflection and then just rolled into the corner. Berkey wasn't going to do anything about it. But what do you think is the breakdown on that goal? I'm curious what you think, and then I'll tell you what Jake Gerwood-Reich said after the game.
I'll let our guest start because mine could go a little long.
As usual, I think it's lack of communication. I really do. It's just like you have your assignment. Do your assignment. Do your job. And I think it gets a bit confusing out there. I don't think they all know what they're supposed to be doing. And because we don't have the support players out there to prop up some of the players who are at league minimum and be like, you need to do this, and this is where I need you. I mean, we got Berkey's coming back, and he's usually really good. If you watch him, he's such the quarterback back there, right? And he's telling you, I need you here. I need you here. This is what I need you to do. But if you don't have those veteran guys to prop up some of those younger guys, it's chaos. It's bedlam, and it gets confusing. I know that. I've done that. and it's frustrating. And once you get that frustration mark on your back, you just start sometimes playing that the rest of the game. So how do you come back from that? How do you say, like, oh, that happened, it's time to move on? We're gonna prop it up. I'm gonna play even harder now, and I'm gonna play more focused. And how do you keep yourself from falling down that hole even further? And after 12 games,
Yeah,
you start playing in your own head. And that's how I feel about it. You walk around hunched over, slouched shoulders, mad at everybody. It's madness.
Yeah. So for me, the first thing that came to mind again is yet another set piece that we get scored on. So that means you should be able to practice it and know who you're marking at all time. Clearly, zone defense does not work for us for the past 12 games. So, and I think the defender in me as well is that if the referee is so comfortable not having to tell you guys to get off of each other in the box, that means you guys are not doing your job properly. The ref should be coming and say, hey, guys, chill out a little bit. The tugging and all that, it only shows you how much you want to either clear the ball or you want to score it. Did you see any of that happen? No, because the ref is like, all right, there's nothing happened. The second one is that looks like we were missing markers. So yes, Josh got open wide because Yapi was able to, kind of creates a little bit of space for him to shoot the ball, right? But if you watch, Josh, attempted the tackle. That's why the ball deflected. But you see what Baumgartel did when the shot happened? He kind of cringed and went like this. They're not even trying an attempt. And there was, I think, 2 more players that were ball watching. So Yapi literally had, 3 or 4 City players in the box. Almost anyone that played defense, that's when you have to crash, which is you just throw your body towards the ball. If there's a deflection, it's too bad, but at least you've attempted that. That was part of my biggest frustration on the whole defending and the set piece. Once again, that's how we get beat.
No, so the reason I asked though is there's a picture, a freeze frame of that goal, and Mo, I gotta bring it up, of that back line when the cross is played in, that shows Yarrow probably 3 to 4 yards off of Yapi. When the rest of the back line is solid and kind of aligned in unison, and he's kind of the easy one to pick out. Where do you fall on the criticism of Yarrow on this particular play, or do you think there's criticism for him specifically?
No, there is on that part. Yes, he could have tried to be equal to Yapi, okay, but also if you if you watch the entire game and you kind of pay attention to our back threes changing to back four and such, you will see that Balmargo and Yar were kind of like changing position to like almost an old school sweeper. And also the mental stage of it. We know that Josh during the LAFC, he got cooked by my country Frenchman. So you see so you see the last few times he did get kind of beat out of position. Yep. So I'm wondering if there's the mental stage of things where now he's trying to maybe compensate by staying back more so that he can have more of that playback. And the other part was he playing like the old school sweeper at one time? Because Balmargo was actually going up as much as he could as well. So there was a few times where Josh was the last defender by a few feet. So yes, so there was that still picture. I'll tell everyone, right? The more you play a still picture or the more you play a slow-mo video of anything, a bad tackle, off position, the more and more you watch it, the worse it gets. Right?
Well, can I ask a question here?
Yes.
Who's running the show back there in the backfield?
There's nobody.
Our captain is just now coming back. But when we watch like some really good defense within other leagues, there's always somebody who's the senior player back there who's got everything under control. There's always somebody back there that would take Yarrow and say, I need you over here. I need you to do this. I need you to watch this one. I need you. They're coming through this position all the time. I need you to take care of that. I don't feel like when I say there's lack of communication, there's nobody back there saying, they're just taking control of the situation and saying, we need this from you at this moment. Because some of our younger guys, like I said, we go back to the league minimum. Sometimes they're going to need that little extra something out there in the field, but that's everywhere. Let's look at Liverpool. Who's running the show in the backfield in Liverpool?
Virgil van Dijk.
And who wants to get on his bad side?
Nobody. Nobody. I know I don't. No, that's the thing. You're missing Kessler. Obviously, we all know Tim Parker is long gone now. But those are the two. But Kessler or Parker for the first year, Kessler since he's been gone is supposed to be that talisman, and it's hard to have your backline organized when your captain's out. And Berkey can do so much, and he was barking at them the entire game. There's several times he was barking at them about it. But I was curious on your takes on that goal because JGR after the game, he didn't put the onus on anybody, but he's like, it was something we should have stopped. We've got to stop that. We've got to do better. Even
if they stopped it though, Jeremy, where are we going from there? Are we going to another draw? Are we walking out with 1 point? I know 1 point's better than 0 points, but that weird, it has to be a transition to everything because it just keeps getting, okay, we draw it again. Fantastic.
Right.
That was just the precursor of what's happening now.
Right.
Because
because if we go down 1, if we had things working the way they should, it should have been, we'll get it back. Let's go, guys. No big deal. But we know better, and you can see it in their eyes. They know better. We should have not let that in.
Well, and kind of just to your direct question there, where do we go? I'm just kind of looking at this. So they get the goal in the 41st minute from Yapi. We get into the break. It's down 1-0, Colorado with the lead. What some might have called against the run of play, but they still got the lead. Looking at our chances in the second half, we had, I count them, and according to FB Ref, it's 6 shots in the second half. None of them were above an average rating in terms of XG. And the more that I've talked into stats in the last 3-4 weeks to a month and a half, I've started giving up on them because honestly, the stats don't do anything but say ifs, whats, and shoulda, coulda, wouldas, right? So, but if you look at it, according to expected goals, the best chance we had to score in the second half was the Conrad Vollum shot that was done in the 50th minute. I'm looking here because I thought was he the guy that was. I thought there was a shot from Ostrak, and I don't see that recorded here. But I might have my players mixed up. But I could have sworn there was an opportunity where Ostrak, I thought he took it into the box and shot it himself, or was it Dirk? I don't remember. But either way, this though, while you've got this pulled up, Mo, I do want to talk about this.
Yeah.
This is the passing map from MLS Stat in the second half of play. And I just want you to look at the left side of this for a second. If you count this, you have 5 players in one general vicinity of play. When you have a coach who week in and week out going into games says nothing but, I want to be unpredictable. When you have this to me screams, oh, we know exactly where the ball's going to go. We know how to play against it. We know where to position ourselves defensively, and we're playing right into the hands of Colorado. So I got to understand, or have someone with much better knowledge explain it to me, that how this makes you unpredictable, because this just looks like you have 5 guys in the same quadrant of the field, and to me is a way to kill your offense.
And I don't know about that part, but going back to the still picture of Josh being so back compared to everybody else, that picture tells you why. Because you see your left center back, look where he is.
Yeah.
Look at where your right center back is. It looks like he was put in place to be the last center back, not equal, because else then everybody else would have been in the middle.
Well, and the thicker the lines, just for those who may not be familiar with what this graphic is, it's your average player's position. This is specifically in the second half, so after we were down, and the thicker the line between the players is how the volume of passes between those positions and those players. But to me, it screams, if you look at this, there is almost no to very faint lines going from the left to the right. Everything is literally, we're funneling from the right to the left and building through Volum or Hartle on the left. And it just to me screams poor tactics. It screams poor game planning and a lack of, again, you want to be unpredictable. This doesn't do that for me, but go ahead.
I mean, you can't, you got nothing going to your right center midfield. You got nothing going to the left center midfield. I mean, what they're playing is supposed to be an attack-minded formation, and you can't without a midfield. It's just not gonna happen. So when do we say, "Hey, we need to change our formation"? I mean, because it's not gonna work. I mean, what they're playing is supposed to be an attack-minded formation. It's not gonna be.
But look where our center forward is.
Yeah.
He's still in our half.
Right. And this is what we discussed. And so I want you to think about, if the fitness is not there and you're coming back this far to help defend and then doing a break all the way to goal again to get back into position, of course he's going to be gassed.
Or get injured.
100%.
So, Matt Jones, that comment, sparks a question.
Yes.
What other options do you have at the back line? Unless you're going to play Vincel, unless you're going to bring up a guy from City 2, given the injury problems, I don't know what more we can do in the back line. I think the positions you can change are your midfield. But, I mean, Derek, I want to ask you, are you to the point where you talk about sitting a guy like a Toyshirt, a Hartle, to prove a point to this roster, to get something going, to light a spark?
Do you? I mean, if they're not being fed, if we're not getting the transitions that we need, I mean, there's games I watch him, I'm like, man, he is an engine, and he just hasn't stopped. But there's only 2 guys. Like, what do we do? I mean, there's parts of me that say parts of me say no. But I mean, I just think giving them better opportunities and giving them better balls was going to change a lot of things that we see. There's no creativity to them. There's just no inspired play and movement. How many times have you watched our left back, our wing back, just stand and wait for something to happen? I mean, even when I was a kid, it was taught, hey, you have to make movement for other people. So it's not what you do with the ball, it's what you do without the ball. You're told that when you're a child. And watching them be stagnant and stand on the wings drives me batty. I'm like, why is there no movement? But so yeah, my thoughts is, do you set them? I don't know at this point, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the tricky question. And I'm starting to think is that even though I'm for benching players to kind of send a message, but at the same time, we now have to think maybe it's the formation that is not playing for the
100%.
players, because they're either they're getting confused on what their actual task is, or that it's being asked so much of what the coach wants to do that they are, like, you can see the players, the passes and some of the miscommunication, like they were saying. It is all about either they're tired or they just don't know where their next teammate is located, right? Usually the best players, the passes typically are not calculated, right? If you, like you say, hey, I know that Celio is on the right side. I know he like to shift on the middle. I'm going to pass the ball to lead him to get to it. That's exactly what Klaus did to Tuchel, right? For that 1v1. It was not a touch back and go, right? He received the ball and he led him to it. And that's where Tuchel was able to catch with the ball and then find himself I think that was the only one time that we saw that type of play. The rest is, I caught the ball. I need to look back. Who's behind me that I can pass it back and then wait for the next action.
Well, the formation we're playing now is something that needs creativity. It can be hard to bring it all together. So when we go back again, our depth, you have people on there who don't have a lot of experience with this sort of thing. So it takes time. Do we have that time right now? No. So and you come in, once another team understands that you cannot play this formation that you're so tied to correctly, they're going to be able to kill you every single time. It's easy. So you need to be able to, okay, what do I have? What am I going to be able to do with the players I currently have? And you need to be able to change that.
So, Derek, I want to go back. So again, I'm trying to do my best to break my habit of stats, right?
Sorry, Jeremy. Sorry.
No. This isn't you, Mo. You're not the only person. I've had a lot of conversations on social media that say stats are not the way to break down this game anymore. You've got to look at the eye test and you've got to talk to them. But
no, Jeremy, we have to give you credit. So yes, you can. You have to.
Yeah.
But
it's a give and take.
During there's that thin line where many are crossing the line where it's here's the stats and here's my argument instead of here's the stat to back up my argument. But
this stat actually speaks to what Derek asked us just a little bit ago. Because you're down a goal or whatever, where do you go from here? When in all game states this season, when City has been trailing, whether it's by 1 or by 7, even though we've never trailed by 7, but that's the range this website uses. City has had 39 total shots on goal. Only one of those actually went in. We have only scored 1 goal the entire season when you trail, which, by the way, is crazy to think about in a way, because you think you're chasing games late, you're going to be peppering the net, or you should be finding a way to pepper your opponent's net with shots trying to get the equalizer. But we've only scored 1 time when trailing this season, and when trailing, only 11 of those shots have actually been above average opportunities to score based on expected goals. So we don't produce 2 things. We don't produce a high enough quantity of shots, and they're not high enough quality of shots, especially when we're trailing. That's my takeaway.
Well, it goes back to putting Celia out there early.
Yep.
Use some speed. We got to catch them on their back. They know what we're going to do. We go back to saying that again. Okay, well, we know they're going to run this formation. They're not the greatest at it, blah, blah, blah. So why don't we start changing up, put some speed out there? Even speed can be better right now than just a technicality. So being able to put those people on their back heels to get past them, make them think twice about bringing everybody forward. We got to put some guys back here because they're killing us out here in the wings. They're killing us, and we have to be able to do that.
Well, and the other thing too, these teams, they get up a goal, maybe two. They do the same thing everybody has done since year one. Sit in the low block, give City the ball. Why? Because we don't know what the hell to do with it.
Oh,
rinse and
100%.
repeat.
Well, you can't. It goes back to, I said it. You heard me say it a million times on this call. It's like there's no transition. That zero, and that transition ball is such a big deal. Go back and let's look at your past stats again, and look at those thick lines and who they're going to. There's no transition going through the midfield. None. It is ridiculous. And where's our striker at? Where is he standing? It's so.
Yeah. So no, I mean, from there, guys, I mean, the game ends 1-0. There really wasn't much to speak about. City had a couple of half chances in the second half, but I mean, against a backup keeper, a team that was missing their leading goal scorer in Rafael Navarro, their starting keeper in Zach Steffen, and I think one of their center backs was out as well. It's more points dropped, and it's in a game. I saw somebody in the chat earlier say, we learn to finish, we win that game. I guess my question is, if we go up, let's just devil's advocate for a second. Toykert scores that goal on the 1v1. We have a 1-0 lead. Is there faith that City could see that out? Because I don't think I have the faith that a 1-0 lead is possible for this team to hold.
Well, we've had a 2, haven't we? It's just like, come on in, guys. The goals are great down on our end too, so.
I mean, Minnesota got 2 in 5 minutes against us in the Open Cup.
Hey, I think we just on that Minnesota. The more and more I watched the game, it was more of a payback than more than anything else. It's just that Markenik had something to prove. He plays against some of his former teammates. So he knows their tendencies, right? And they know what's happening. And it was just one of those where, hey, this is against my old team. I'm going to make it happen. And I am also going to celebrate just like that.
Yep. So go ahead.
Okay.
No, my question was, I have my next question for both of you. Is like, is it, it's probably too late, or was time a month ago, to talk about changing systems with this squad? I mean, not only based on who's available, but just on performance. Is that where we think we need to talk about? Is it to get the most out of this team? Is changing the system around?
Well, I should ask you the question then. Is Olaf capable of communicating a different system? Is he able to say, "Hey, this is what I have, and this is what I think we can do, and it'll be better"?
Well, hold on, hang on. Oh, what? Yeah, hang on. Sorry, Diego called me. Oh, he's got a plan A, plan B, plan C. Yeah, apparently. Yeah, I'm sorry, from Diego himself. Apparently, yes, he's capable. I haven't seen it, so maybe stats and eye test aren't matching up enough here.
You get what I'm saying? Like,
100%.
We haven't been able to communicate what we're doing now, let alone like, do we simplify it? Are we asking too much from some of these younger guys that are on the bottom of the payroll? Do we simplify? I mean, heck, man, let's just go all out and try something new. I mean, but I worry about, again, we go back to the coaching, we go back to like, are we able to say, I need X, Y? Because really, your job at this level should be, I am just doing what the coach told me to do. And you should be able to take what he gives you and make it happen on the field. That's it. Because you should be that good at this level. That's why you're here. And so he should be able to communicate a new system and say, okay, we got it. We're going to try this new. And I mean, it can work a game or two before they figure us out again, but then let's change it again. That's how it works. That's how coaching should work.
Yeah. And I think that's the other part, where a new coach coming into a new league, which the MLS is totally different than everybody else on earth, that you have to do your homework and your due diligence to what you are able to do with what you have when you come into the league.
We
You
talked
can go
about this,
anywhere in
Jeremy.
Europe where, yes, we've talked about it, right? You can go all the way to your academy, to your U15. If you see a kid that's balling out from everything all the way to the U22, you're like, maybe that kid has something. So I can literally move him all the way to the first team and say, here's your chance. Now, here in MLS Next Pro, you have to do a stupid loan. And then you have 24 hours. Then you have a certain limits. So it's like, and here's like, right, in the other leagues, right? If a new coaches comes and say, hey, I need this budget, I need this amount of players. These are my go-to guys that I want to come in. In the MLS, you cannot do that.
No.
But looks like maybe he not prepared as much for the limitations that comes into being an MLS coach.
Well, and even like there's a way earlier in the chat, there was someone saying, I think it was Aaron had said, Joyner, get Joyner more time. To your point, Joyner's a homegrown. He can only appear in 6 games unless we give him a first team contract. I believe I haven't looked lately, but I know our roster is close to full. So we have to have a roster spot for him, number one. And number two, the bigger question I have for Joyner, depending on where you see his long-term development going, is he going to get substantial enough minutes to make that contract beneficial for him? Because my thing is this: I don't want to sign him to a contract if he's not going to play. If you're not going to play him with the first team, he's better off at City 2, where he's going to get minutes and he's going to continue to develop, because sitting on the bench does nothing for him. That's my only give and take with the Joyner situation.
He's like the player that's like almost too good for MLS Next Pro.
Yeah.
But for the circumstances that we are now here, where the team has to win and there's no other options, I think that's where it kind of gets him stuck. And that's why Miguel Perez and all that are also being stuck in that situation where it's a win now mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I'm pretty confident that if we put some of these guys to give them a little bit of that opportunity to see what they have, right? But surely he showed us that he can run. He has an engine. He might not do the Leuven assist but I'm sure that if the ball is rolling somewhere and he knows he can catch it, I'm sure he will be there before a lot of our current players in the midfield. We're missing that St. Louis blue collar worker in the midfield. That's why
Yeah. But to your point, though, going back to Joyner for just a split second, like that's one of those mechanisms that Olaf either wasn't prepared to handle or didn't understand when he took the job. Like, because you ideally you would say, okay, yeah, let me give a Joyner a run out on the bench. Let me keep him up with the first team. Let me play him more. Maybe give him a start in a game that he hasn't seen time in, right? Or seen time in a few weeks in. But you can't, because you have this mechanism and now you've only got maybe one more appearance he can make, and maybe you need to hold that for God knows why. But
they might as well just have him play.
I mean, at this point, why not? But I guess the problem is where do you see him developing? Do you see him playing as a left back? Because to me, he doesn't.
No,
I don't want him as a left wing back. I want him as he's almost like Celio, right? He should be that winger, that left winger, running at pace down the left side. He can whip it across. We just saw him bang in 4 goals, even though 2 of them were spot kicks. He had 2 penalty goals, but he can still score, and he scores consistently. He's, I think, the all-time leading scorer at Energizer Park. He's got like 20 goals across all of his competitions now.
4 goals.
So,
right?
I mean, a quarter of them came in a game, but still not the point. But I don't know. I mean, and that's another point on Olaf, because he came with the reputation of being a guy that knew how to work with kids, knew how to develop the youth, and we haven't seen that either.
I think MG got a point on that.
Yeah.
You know how we did with Sam, where he was not playing up top as much because Klaus was killing it, and they knew he had a relationship already with San Antonio. So they're like, hey, since there's no restrictions with the USL when you're doing business with them, hey, let's have you go and play with adults, grown men, to see how you can perform. And if push come to shove, come back when we need you. See maybe if Joyner is ready for that next level. It never hurt. You can call him the next day, right? He can play one game in the USL and come back, because apparently there's no big restrictions unless you deal with the team itself. But he's stuck.
I'm curious. So, Jeremy, when we talked about Olaf is, great with his youth development and all that, do you think, and this is just my question, do you think that perhaps he bit off more than he can chew? Because when you come into the MLS, it is a totally different beast. It is just a monster. And being able to, you're not going to have time, man. You can't even teach this 3-4-3. How are you going to? How are you going to go back and forth with these youth development? The only thing you're going to be able to do is bring them into practice and perhaps get them into a game. You're not going to have time to say, I'm going to go down here and watch these guys for a little bit and see if I can help out.
That's a great question, Derek. I as time has gone on, I have been more inclined to fall into that camp, that he bit off more than he can chew, that he wasn't prepared, that he didn't, even though he claimed, he said, I guess that's to your point. He said when he was introduced, I'm familiar with this team. I watched every game from last year. I know these players. What he watched could be completely different than what he's seeing at training, and he doesn't have time to fix it or adjust to it or any of those things. So to your point, I'm in that camp. I think he bit off more than he can chew. I think he's been trying to find ways to try to get to remedy that, but then combine that with the injuries that this team has had in some of these key positions, even in the back line. It's hard. It's hard to say that he was really well prepared to be in the situation that he's in, and I don't know that he has a clue on how to get out of it.
Well, then it goes back to what you and I discussed the other night. Does it all fall on Olaf? Where does it start and where does it end? So when we start talking about our sporting director, hey, do we need one that actually has some MLS experience? Because the roster rules, which I've already heard in this conversation, are completely bonkers when it comes to MLS. And do we need somebody who knows how to build a proper MLS roster? And then we have somebody who's calling the shots above him saying, well, we're not doing that. We're going to do this instead. And none of those have worked. None of those choices that were finalized have worked. So we need to know, hey, what is the roster going to be? And how are we going to pay for it? How much are we allowed to pay for it? How can we adjust to this to make an actual team that could be at least, at the very minimum, a mid-table team? I mean, that's not too much to ask.
No. So Mo, I don't know. I know you had mentioned to me earlier you had a bunch of things you wanted to get into. I want to make sure we get your points in as well.
I think I may have covered a little bit of it, and I think the one that I wanted to talk about as well were the construction of the team and all that part too. So yes, so we have the visible faces, right? So that'll be the coach and then the sporting director. In that case, we have our COO, right? But if you look around the league, right, and all of the ownership groups, right? In Europe, yes, you can have one family or one owner that is a billionaire. Yes, our owners are billionaires, yes. But that's still one company and one family, right? But then that also comes into a package where there is that willingness to spend money because you are so aggressive that money almost does not become an object, right? I'm a Chelsea fan, so Abramovich was our owner, right? He wrote checks not from Chelsea's bank, from his, because he said, Mourinho, who are the players you want? And he said, here, right? But then you come to the MLS, they're starting to understand that cannot happen anymore. You need almost like a hedge fund, or you need a group of owners that comes together, that put their money together, that says, here's how much we're going to spend, right? When we have one owner, typically it says you get 10 million, right? So that's 10 million you have to spend. But what about if you have 5 or 6 owners? They all come and says, you know what? We will put 5 each. There's your 25. Then you are able to spend that money. Or you're the Arthur of ATL, where he's been in that business and that foundation so much, he's not afraid to invest for that team. That's why he spent 20 some million dollars and brought back players. Sometimes we sort of have to also make our expectations to know who our team is, how it's going to get built, and not to get caught up with all of the other people that are spending crazy money. Right? You have your Leicester City and you have your Man Cities, right? You have your Chelsea and then you have your Everton, right? So there's a certain level of expenditure that you have to worry about. The other part, I enjoy talking soccer, online and all that fun stuff. But I think a lot of that, yes, we're losing. That's probably why a lot of people are upset. But also we're starting to kind of lose that part of football that we all enjoy, which is typically to forget about all the crap that happens outside, but within those 90 minutes of the football itself. So I think that was just my part where, I don't know, the fun part, yes, we're losing. It happens. And I don't know, Derek, whose team you follow outside of U.S. soccer, but Jeremy, you right?
Oh well,
Am I right?
I'm a Liverpool fan, and
Oh, so we have to drop him then. He's too happy. He's too happy right now.
And I also root against anybody playing against Man U. But
oh wow, Jeremy, wow.
See, I picked the best friends. What can I say?
I was just a dig at Jeremy. I just like to get him a little bit.
Bring it. We're trash. We're like 17th in the Prem or 16th.
I've been a Liverpool fan for a long time. We weren't always great.
No, clearly, and United's hasn't been for a while. I would say this. You're right, Derek, but I want you to talk on it first, because you said something before we went live about the fun and the football, and I don't want to steal your thunder. So, Derek, the table's yours.
We have to refresh my memory. We talked about this is entertainment for us, and
yes,
we're spending our money on it, right? And that's what we do. So we want to enjoy it, and I give you my money, and I get what you're saying. Hey, man, we should be happy we have a team. And
not that quote. Not that
but
quote.
I mean,
yes. That's dangerous one.
I'm ecstatic that we have a team. But people say, well, you guys have to suck it up, and you have to support them no matter what. I also wanted to understand, if I went to the St. Louis Symphony and they played so terribly, would I have to go and support them so they play better? Or would I say, hey, I'm not going to give you my money anymore. This is not entertaining to me. And I kind of get to that point too, because I'm like, hey, I come down there all the time. And let's be honest, we had the most expensive tickets in the league. Yeah. Our concession stands are pretty pricey. And if you don't get there at least 3 or 4 hours before the game, you're going to have to pay $40 to $50 to park off the street. So yeah, I get a little frustrated. I mean, I'm down there. I pay I have season tickets like everybody else, but I want it to be entertaining. And I am a Blues fan, for goodness sake. It took me 52 years to get to a point where I'm like, hey, we're hosting the cup, man. That's awesome. But so I'm not asking a ton from the team. I'm asking for some entertainment. I'm asking for some fun and creativity and some movement. Let me come in and be like, man, yeah, they lost, but boy, did they play hard. Man, that was really entertaining. But I don't really think that's unreasonable. And I see a lot of people get really upset online when they say, well, you got to support them no matter what. Well, yeah, I will, but it doesn't mean I'm not going to be upset that I'm paying my money to see something entertaining. So.
Yeah, and that's where I think a lot of this fan base is getting right now, Derek, myself included, because man, it's I'm not a season ticket holder. Go to games out of my own pocket, and sometimes tickets aren't cheap, and the food's not cheap, and the parking is whatever. But it's not like we're gonna not watch the club, and we're not gonna not want the club to succeed. It's we're not gonna run them out of town, but we want results, and I don't think that is a bad thing. I don't think that's unfair for the fans to want or have expectations for not only being competitive, but maybe a little bit more than that. And that's where I'm at, is just that level of frustration with the team of saying, man, if it's a busy Saturday night, maybe something else has to take priority. But I don't know. That's where I wonder if the rest of the fan base is getting there.
Well, how did Moneyball work down the street at the other place?
Yeah,
they're still trying to fill those stands, even though
they are.
What? How many games have they won now in a row?
They lost tonight, but they went on like a 13-game winning streak or something, I think. So, and I mean, they're over 500, which a lot of people didn't think they would be. So, but yeah, even that, they still can't fill those seats. So it's a good point.
This is where I'm going. That's where I'm going with this. Like I get, man. Like, I'm going again with saying, hey, man, I would take 500 right now. Wouldn't you guys?
Oh yeah,
that's
with some goals. with some goals, yeah, absolutely.
I would take 500. And I think that's the biggest picture. Is like, hey, all of us on this call, and I think everybody in the chat would be like, you know what? We got it back, and now we're at 500. Was it great? No, but was it entertaining? Heck yeah, it was a lot better than it was.
Yeah. So. Something as I was reading through the chat, it sparked a question, though. And so we've talked a little bit about the roster. We've talked about Lutz a little bit, but let's just tear the Band-Aid off. 11 games given 11-game winless streak at this point, guys. Whether it's Lutz, whether it's Olaf, does making a change in one of those positions do enough to change this system, or is it just whoever the scapegoat is?
No, I don't see it change anything. I mean, you may get some of what's they call that little spark, the bounce from the new coach, but how long is that going to last? I mean, they still have the same team, right? And I think for me, I'd keep a few and move on. I really think there's some hard decisions to make as far as our DPs, and I think without going into weeds on that, I just think there needs to be some very candid conversations at the higher level, saying like, we are not getting our money's worth, and it's a business, and we need to reshuffle.
Yeah,
but
Mo,
I was there with you. How we'll call that? Yes, the players. It's going to be interesting, but my question is, because Hack was sort of almost had the same player-ish, right? But looks like the only difference it was that when Tuchel, Hartel, and all that came in to City, he almost gave him carte blanche of like be as creative as they would like to move forward and make it happen because there was that push. But here it looks like they're more held into and says what the coach has to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the part that's kind of, we know, and we saw Hartel has like the swag. He likes to dance before games, but it looks like it shuts off when the referee whistles because he has to do that work. And I'm wondering if need more of maybe a coach that have a little bit more trust on those players that says, I know what you can do. Here's what I want you to do. But if something changes during the game or you see something different on the field, you have the opportunity to make it happen. And I'm starting to wonder, maybe we're stuck in the Pep generation where everybody's so trying to be so tactical and everybody wants to start from the back, that they get stuck in that facet. There's a few teams that do not do it. Barcelona is one. Their center back, just like the picture you saw, their center back does not have the most passes during a game. your midfielder should have. Right now, we're watching. Josh has the most. Balmargo has the most. Watts has the most passes. That shouldn't be your center back, your right back, or left back. That should have those. So I think the technical part, we're stuck. I cringe every time I see the ball going back. I can tell you that. I cringe every time it goes either our last center back or back to the goalkeeper. I cringe all the time because that allows the other team to reset and wait for you to come back to them. And then there's the momentum out the window.
I think the key word in all of this, guys, is trust. I don't think Olaf trusts the players to make the right decisions and the right reads, and that's where I think the disconnect is.
I listened to Mo, made me think about. I started thinking about watching all the games and watching everything. I think that they're handcuffed. We got some of our most creative players just handcuffed, and you still see them wanting to do some of those little flashy plays here and there, but they're not like they were when they first came, where we're just like we are screaming choo choo. I think that just was so exciting to watch and see, and some of Hartel's passes were just so amazingly crisp and wonderful. And I feel like I think Mo, you hit on the heads. I feel like they got him in handcuffs right now, and by God, we're going to play this way. And this is the formation. I better not see you change it because it's going to turn the corner any day now.
And that's why the MLS pundits are saying, right? They have it so much. They had City so high because they knew the players we had, and it's still saying we have so much talent in the team, but we're not using it. Yeah. And that's from the pundits.
I mean, the guys on Soccer Wise last week, they spent like 20 minutes talking about City, and they said that exactly. It's we have the quality. It's just the guy in charge isn't putting them in the positions to succeed. I do have a question though. So we've talked a little bit about Olaf and him staying or going. We'll get to, but bigger picture. Let's take a step back. The season ends. At the end of this season, St. Louis City has 11 players who are out of contract. Do we trust Lutz Pfannenstiel to be the guy to make the decisions to keep or to buy, sell, keep, let him go? Where are we with that conversation?
Does he get to actually make those decisions?
Well, he's your sporting director, so you would think he'd at least have a
who has the final say though in the things that he wants to do.
We had this discussion on several occasions.
Is that Diego?
I think it will be. There will be. I'm thinking there will be a discussion. But I think now there's more of that multi-layer of approval that needs to go. If it's contract-wise, player-wise, that's what happens where the generation changes, right? When you have Sir Alex Ferguson, he was the coach, sporting director, COO. Yeah. Wenger was the same thing. Welcome to the new world.
Let's talk about the success from the first year. Who was above Lutz at that time?
Kendall.
Carolyn. Yeah. Until we brought in Diego, nobody.
Yeah, and things seemed to work out just okay. We were doing great. So, what was the purpose of that? Why? And I guess are we reining in the spending? I mean, but we're not even spending that much. I mean. That's the thing is like I get, man, you guys got to pay back that stadium. You got to pay back a bunch of other things, but man, we could still try to hit the mid center again. I keep going for the middle. Like I like if I can get you to the middle, man, I'd be so happy.
Yep. So
you're not asking for much.
So okay, so we heard Lutz on the radio on KMOX yesterday morning, Sports on a Sunday with Tom Ackerman. To give them credit properly. He said that they were going to spend the next 2 days reevaluating everything. They were going to watch the last 3 games, try to figure out where the problem was and how to fix it. We heard radio silence today from the club. Maybe we hear something tomorrow regarding Olaf or whatever that next decision is. But we have 2 months, a little less than 2 months now. I think July 24th. Is the opening of the summer transfer window. With the players that are out of contract at the end of the season, with where this team is, how much of an impact does keeping Olaf before, until the end of the summer put into this transfer window? Because those conversations about, well, what are we doing? Who are we targeting? Have to be going on. But with the coach, do you have to have this coach in place to make that make sense? Or do you just say we have a vision of what the club is, regardless who the boss is, and that's who we go for?
I don't think at this level you do. That's just me. It's like a lot of guys are like, "Hey, what's the paycheck look like?" Honestly, let's talk about some of the big players that are moving around right now, and it's like, "Oh, so and so is in the lead," it's just how it is. It's like I don't think that's big. I think Olaf gets till the Aston Villa game, and I think that's about the end of it.
That's what
does
people are
anybody
saying,
disagree
which
with
is
that?
bad.
I think he gets the Aston Villa game, and that's about the end of it. If it continues otherwise way, but I don't. Jeremy, answer your question. I don't. I think if the player's good enough and has been around the block enough, and the fee is correct, our facilities are fantastic. I just don't see that being an issue. Again, we go back to saying at this level, you are only doing what the coach is you're just performing. But you also need to put we need to not handcuff and go back to what Mo said, and they got to be able to put the cherry on top, That's just how it has to be. They have to have that little creative spark. But that's my opinion. I may be correct in saying that, but I don't think it's going to be that detrimental to having bringing new players in.
Go ahead, Mo.
Well, I always bring it back to this generation of soccer. Almost the coaches, unless it's a big name coach that you've said, fine, here's what we're going to let you do. Every other teams you can think of right at this moment, sporting directors or recruiters or whoever is at the top, and I take my Chelsea as the pure example. They've hired a whole bunch of guys in like the office, right? They're the one looking at the players. They're the one that look at the stats. They're the one looking at everything. It says, hey, these are the players we're going to have. Do we have a coach that can coach them? And if it's yes, they will take him. If it's a Pep says whatever he wants. I think he's probably a few, him, Pep, and PHG and all that can say, here's what I want. And it's going to happen. But there's not that many now these days. So I'm wondering if that's what's currently happening at the same time, is that they are looking at players. That's normal. It's a 24/7 job. They're looking at those. Now the question will be, is Olaf the right coach? And are we brave enough or crazy enough, or however you want to call it, to keep the same coach and endure what every single St. Louis fans are saying at this moment for another 11 games? Because I think that will be the biggest decision they have to make. Is you can take every sporting decision at this moment out. Is Lutz leadership and everything willing to take St. Louis anger for the rest of the season to say, next year, here's what we get. In Europe, we're used to it.
Well,
are
some of us are still under contract to pay for our tickets.
Hey, trust me, my budget of soccer, and I'm even paying for tickets in Europe for PhD and Chelsea that I have not touched in 10 years. But yes, I think that's the part where I'm wondering is, can they endure if they're keeping Olaf this long? From what I've learned from St. Louis sport fans, do not hold your tongue when you're not happy.
Well,
can they survive
what
that?
You're saying, Mo, but I mean, how many teams? We've all watched a lot of soccer. We watch a ton of leagues. How many teams are in flux all the time with a new coach? But they're still bringing players in, and still players going out. That's just the name. It's just business. It's just the way it is, and it'll be the way it always will be. So I don't know if it'll really change anything. No, I don't think it'll change anything bringing anybody in.
Yeah, so the only reason I ask this, and I'm taking my city glasses off and putting my United glasses on for just a split
Good luck.
second. Because here's why. Because I think about it. We brought in Eric Ten Hag. The roster didn't fit his play style. By the time they finally got the roster he wanted, he's out the door. Now we have Ruben Amorim. He's got players that were brought in to play Ten Hag ball, and he wants to play a completely different system. So that's why I bring in this point to the conversation of unless in my mind they think Olaf is the long-term guy, I don't know how you give him the summer window to pick players or have an influence in bringing in players that are going to play whatever his style is. That's my concern, because unless they are willing to sit there and say, look, we accept where we are this season. We now want to reframe this as a project and rebuilding towards City 3.0. Then you give Olaf the summer, you give him the window, and you set it out and you figure it out from there. But I don't know that they're willing to do it.
Oh, you see, there's people that are saying let him pick his own players. But are you guys in the chat, and it's St. Louis soccer fandom, are you willing to take for the next 11 games? I don't, from what I've seen, read, and sports commentators and all that, I do not see anyone willing to take another 11 games, but not by choice.
Yeah, well, it's not. It's again us paying the money for our entertainment, right? Yeah. And that's the bottom line. Like I'm giving you my hard-earned cash in this economic climate. It's difficult, man, for you to say, like, I can justify watching you lose another 11 games. So,
I mean, for the record, I don't want to watch us lose 11 more games. But I don't know where their stance is. I think as we hear more messaging from Lutz in the front office, hopefully in the coming days, I think we'll get a clearer picture on where the club thinks they need to be moving forward and who's going to be leading them. I think the question, though, is if it's not Olaf, who? And I don't think it can be John Hackworth. I don't think you can put Hack back in charge, because how bad does that look? He's the guy that helped you end last season, who many fans wanted to get the job. You said no to him just to hire Olaf. You can't fire Olaf and go back to Hack, in my opinion.
No, I agree with you 100%. I thought that what bad visuals that would be.
Yeah.
I mean, that is just ridiculous. You can't go do that. It's like I'm going back to my old girlfriend for the time being.
Right.
Because my new girlfriend didn't work out.
I remember those days where they used to have, like, if the coach was not doing well, they used to have, like, what they call consultant come within the team, but you knew exactly that they were, like, interim coaches that were just working with the actual coach to kind of give him tips to see how the team could change. Maybe they should try something like that. I mean, that's way, way back in the days where, I remember those technical consultants, they were interim coaches in the back door, just waiting either to get someone get fired or give assistance. But now I don't think St. Louis has patience to let him pick players. And let's not forget, the MLS did not allow you to just say, hey, I don't like these 5, 6, 7, 8 players. Goodbye. And I'm going to bring in 8 more players. That's not how it works.
And just judging off the chat, they don't want to rebuild. So I don't think anybody's going to stomach my idea.
But I think at the end of the season, you're not going to have a choice. I mean, what do we have? 11 people under the contract. I mean, so you got to make a decision on who you're going to keep and who you're not going to keep. And that you're not going to have a choice. And that's just how it works.
And that's the one that kind of hurts, is like, if you have 11 players on that their contracts back to expired, I would expect a certain level of, like, hey, I am in a contract year. You should be balling out of your mind to get something else.
I heard Klaus say that. He goes, "We're playing for our contracts," and I'm like, "Well, very poorly you are."
Yeah, you should feel it in, like, tackles that someone's working for a contract. in 11 of them, that's a lot of negotiations.
You are your own business owner as a player. Yeah. You're your own product. You need to be promoting yourself. You need to be putting out the best product that you can. And it does not seem to be the case. Is it, again, when you were saying, Mo, like, are they got their handcuffs on and they're not creative and they're just trying to stick to what the coach is saying? Are they just not putting the effort out? Are they not fit? Maybe it's it's a little of each into a one pot, but who knows?
And why are they not fit? Because how many times were we getting injuries the day before a game, the training right before a match? Like, I mean, not to beat that old horse again, but I mean, my God, like that's just the theme of the season. Kessler day before the game, Berkey day before the game, Horn day before a game. At least those three recently that I can remember. I mean, that's a whole other problem.
But at the end of the year, we're also talked about, I wanted to bring this up with summer transfer window coming up. We're promised again, be patient. Big moves are coming. What do you guys, how much do you believe that when they say a big move, our idea of a big move and their idea of a big move, what do you think is going to really happen?
Who's available on a free transfer? That's my question.
What's on the ding sale in the Bundesliga too?
The Bundesliga.
At this point, after this summer, every single player is going to be at a premium because we're in a World Cup year. And every player's also at the same time is not just on the field, right? That's why we have the Wilfred, from that went to Carolina, right? When they come in with their name, it's because they also come with their country. They also come with their, profiles. It's a World Cup year. Every player that comes to the MLS is because they have a profile that it will make them international. That's what Cincinnati said it themselves, right? They were bringing in players that were international because the eyes will be on the US and MLS probably for the next 10, 20 years. Having those players in your team, that's how you market it, and that's how you attract other talent.
Well, and that's why you've started to hear more and more links and rumors about guys like Gio Reyna coming to MLS. I don't think he's leaving Dortmund. I mean, he's going to leave Dortmund, but I don't think he's coming back to America. But the point is that gets him playing. That gets him minutes leading into the World Cup. So that is going to be part of the discussion as we ramp up to 2026, I'm sure. But I guess I'm not confident that City is going to go out and we're not going to go splash $20 million like Miami did for Messi, right? Like,
God, no.
We're not doing that. But like, do we think, a $1 or $2 million transfer fee is something that seems unrealistic? We still have somewhere in the ballpark of like $1.8 million in general allocation money from the moves to sell Vasilev and our switch to a U22 roster model. So we've got money to spend that comes from the league, not necessarily Kindle's pockets. So I just think you've got to find a way to spend it in a way that makes sense and makes this team better. And more importantly, beyond just 2025, because that's where I think this money has to be spent. You've got to look forward, in my mind.
Oh, every move is a chess match. It's like, what am I not doing now, but what am I doing if I'm going to put them on a 3-year or a 2-year? Where am I going to be in 2 years? And how am I going to make that piece of the puzzle fit with the rest of the pieces of the puzzle? I mean, I don't envy them. Well, I really don't.
No. Well, and with 11 guys coming out of contract, like, you have to think about it in a way. The summer transfer window sets up what could be the new core for this roster. I mean, we didn't mention it, but Berkey's one of the guys who's a free agent at the end of the season, and he doesn't have an option. So Berkey could be gone. But, I mean, you're looking at guys, the only real players you've got for the next few years that I could think of that are locked up off the top of my head are Hartle, Toykert, and JGR. Everybody else is basically free game.
Right. And how do you guys feel, about Berkey possibly leaving? What's your real take, guys? Not what you see.
Okay. I love Berkey. I love Roman. I think I think one thing I've heard this season is that he's the only guy in the locker room that knows when to speak up or that can speak up and get other guys to listen.
Right.
And as much as I want him to stay, my fear is that we're not going to ever develop another leader as long as he's in the locker room if nobody else will speak up and do what he does. So I saw enough from Lund. Maybe he's the guy to give. I don't know.
But not even him. I mean, goalies are
He's
everywhere.
too quiet.
And I mean, dude, this is not. Berkey has been phenomenal for his team, and just for the face of the team. But can all that money be spent on something more, so we could be, and then we could bring in like we said, we got Lutz. He did not do a terrible job. He looked very good, and for God's sake, he saved a penalty.
Yeah, so. I mean, Berkey is a TAM player, so he's basically making designated player money at over like 1.7 million. So he is one of the biggest contracts on the books. Klaus is another one that comes off the books potentially. He's got an option for next season, but maybe he goes. There's just a lot of big decisions coming up for this club. Mo, what do you think about Berkey?
That's the tricky one. The part where it says that no one will be vocal unless he leaves. I'm always for the player talk, but if they're afraid of Berkey or no one else is willing to speak up because Berkey is around, we have bigger problems than that. I mentioned it before. We always had the discussion on why do we have, players with ego. Those are the ones that are now gone. But now we're asking for players that have ego and are willing to speak up when the hard times. So you see how it works, where during the good times, everybody's like, oh, it was all perfect. But then when things started to get bad, we got rid of players that was willing to speak up or that were not happy about their lack of playing that spoke up. Guess what happened? We ship them out. Now we have Berkey was gone for a lot of time, and even just watching the videos, right? The pre-games discussions. First year, who was mostly on TV talking this and that, bleep, 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 and that? That was Parker. Who do you have here at this moment that will go through a wall for it? I don't see anybody.
I don't see anybody that's going to make you run through the wall. I mean, even as much as I love Henry Kessler, he's not going to be that loud, bolsterous voice. Everything I've seen from him in the public eye he's very personable. He seems kind of mellow and down to earth. But I don't see somebody like that, Parker, that you knew he was mad and
But Kessler, I see him on the field when he's playing against another player. He's that aggressive guy. I think maybe not as vocal as you will like on there, but then that's where the other guys are professionals. All of them have been around. It's not like we're talking, 20-year-old players, right? They've all been around the block.
Yeah.
That it's kind of hard for me to talk about,
Well, it goes full circle now. We go back to we were saying like Yarrow, and if you have somebody like that there supporting him like Parker, there's communication then. He's going to tell him he's not doing his job and he needs to do his job. And you have to have that balance back there. You have to have that veteran, and then you can have the young guy. You can't just have it all young guys back there. Like they look like deer in headlights.
Yeah. And so how are we seeing the great partnership with Klaus and Betcher, showing like their best friend, they're hanging out all the time? How are we not seeing that from the defense? Because the best way for you to be the best, group of guys that usually that's what you need, that relationship together, knowing what the teammates' tendencies are and why not, to be able to, compensate on that. We see that on our forwards. I don't see that in our midfield, and we don't see that on our defenders. So that's why there's always once a goal happens, you see the arms goes down and then they look at each other. So
is it a point of
long.
they're too fast to point the finger of blame and not? There was one thing I think that I saw that I haven't seen a lot this season, and it kind of speaks to that mentality question of when Parker was here, or even in other cases in years past, something goes wrong. He's there picking you up. He's like, instead of turning around and looking for the kind of where I see now is we have a lot of, I'm looking around for that guy to blame. Who missed their mark? Who is this? Versus let me pick you up and let's figure out how to get this mentality turned back around, because we seem to be a team right now that if something goes wrong, we just do that. Our heads go down and we don't know how to pick ourselves back up. And I don't know if that's because of a lack of leadership or if there's something else you guys think contributes to it.
Get a yellow card. Somebody get a yellow card. Show that you're still putting it. The best example will be to work hard.
That's what we said earlier. What Jeremy said is like, we go down one. It should be, don't worry, we're gonna get it back. So that we don't have that mentality. We don't have that go-getter. We don't have that person. And each one of we should have the person in his defense is the veteran, and the midfield should be a veteran, and then we got the strikers up front, and we should be able to take care of it all, and should be able to say we got this. We're going to take care of it. There's no problem. We only have a problem if we don't do it in 90 minutes.
Yep. Well, and especially in those late minutes too, even after the Marcanic goal, because here's the thing: the first goal. The second that happens, somebody has to step up and say, okay, let's get our heads on, because at this point, even if they're not going to say, let's go get a winner, let's get our heads out of our asses and at least get this to extra time so we can reset and fight for it in extra time. There isn't enough of that. Instead, it's heads are still down. We're playing backs against the wall. We're nervous. We don't know how to react. And there's just not enough of that composure because we don't have that leadership. That's how I see it. I could be way off the mark, but that's my interpretation of it.
So Aaron has a question here about Hibbert. He says, does he not communicate, and how does he start every match and not have a voice?
It's those eyebrows.
Hey, look, put a pair of glasses on him. He looks like Clark Kent. I will pick that anywhere. But here's my thing. I'm also going to say this. How much of Hibbert starting every game is due to necessity? You've had Horn hurt. You've had Kessler hurt. Nilsson is made of glass since joining City. He's hurt. So 3 of the 7 center backs that you started the season with aren't available. Olaf is playing JGR now as a center midfielder instead of center back depth. So who else are you going to play other than Hibbert, Yarrow, Baumgartel, unless you're going to throw in a Michael Vinsel or call somebody up from City 2, which he's not shown a preference to do. So, I mean, it's not a disrespect, but Hibbert's probably your 3rd best defender in the center back position in my mind, maybe 4th. He's the 5th best center back from Canada, I believe. So I don't know how much of it is Hibbert's a great defender. Yes, he's had some good one-on-one moments. He did stop a potential goal when I think it was Yapi had a breakaway in the second half against Colorado. I'll give him his flowers for that. But I just don't know if Hibbert starting is necessity or out of him being good enough to do it.
I think he's good enough for it. And he's versatile enough. And I think he also does not venture too high up. So he knows his space and his speed. So I guess he pretty much knows what he's capable and what he's not capable of. So he's probably one of the most dependable defenders that we have. He's had his moments. It's normal because, we make sure that our defense plays 90 minutes with the ball at their feet. So most likely someone's going to score. But I think he's just dependable. He's one of those guys that's more dependable. I think that's why I see him, is that he's a great soccer player and you can put him and he's going to do his work for the time being. All right.
I have another question for you guys. So we've here's the question. So
Jeremy.
I want to go back.
Oh, can't hear
You're
you.
muted.
I want to go back to the conversation for just a second, guys, on the potential coaching change, front office changes, just for a second, because here's the thing. As we were talking, the thought reminded myself of when they brought in Olaf, they said that they had this extensive search, more than 1,000 candidates or whatever the number was, this computer matrix that spit out all this data for them and all of these things. If they're going to let Olaf go, do you trust whatever system they had before to give them the right contingency plan to move this forward? Because I don't think I do.
Was it ChatGPT they used? What was it?
Trying to get us in trouble.
It failed miserably.
I don't know what tools or what I don't know if they brought in a firm to give them a bunch of information, if they had,
I'm sure.
but something was done. I'm hard pressed to think that if Olaf was the best they could do, or at least what we're told was the best option they could hire, I don't have a lot of faith that they have a contingency plan in place.
I think they had a coupon.
Oh boy.
or was it a case that the coach they wanted was out of stock and Olaf was the generic replacement you get like on Instacart?
Yeah, Timu.
Oh my god.
Oh boy, we're gonna get some phone calls on that one.
Oh, I don't know about that. We're having good fun.
It's all just a joke.
It's one of those crazy things where that search is like, the firms, and then they have all this aggregate data to stuff, but I guess my question, and I think there's one of my friend that was asking that was laughing, is like, it sounds like almost those situations where someone is so great at doing interviews that's where you get the sign off, and then once it's time to do the operations and when to get your hands dirty, and you literally get the president reality check, right? When you're running for president, you do not know what's happening behind closed door, right? And that's why they call it the oh shit room, right? You win the elections, they say, here's that door over there, and that's where you have everybody that's in the office that says, here's what's really is about in being a president, or this is what it's all about in the operations room of a soccer club, because you don't know what's behind that door.
Yep.
So I'm wondering if it was one of those situations like great interviews, the pedigree is there, even though some people saying it, the winning first stage
as a player.
Yes, but we've seen some of those players have transitioning that worked out well, but not in the MLS.
I mean, you make a good point. I mean, we all know those people who interview incredibly well and always get a job, but never hold on to a job.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's a whole different experience once you get that job. Yes. Are you going to excel? Are you going to just coast? Or are you going to get on the pip?
Yes. And that's why I'm wondering why we recycle so many coaches all across the world, that we recycle coaches so many times, because they know what those expectations are, and they've been around long enough that they've seen it all. And that's why Bruce Arena gets the job every time he does not have one, because he knows the league.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm struggling to see what the right move forward is for this club right now. I struggle because it's my God. There's a large part of me that is Olaf out, but I don't know what the point of it is, because I don't know that whether he's kept or whether he goes, it's going to turn anything around. The only thing firing him does in some respects is save face for the front office in a way, because they say, oh, we have expectations and he didn't meet them. But then on the flip side of that card, if they're the ones that hired him and brought him in, it also looks bad on them that they're having to make an audible and change a plan 6 months in. So I don't know.
At the end of the day, if you're not ready to have another coach come in or leave Hack alone, take one of the assistant coaches that's been around, because those are not guys that Olaf brought one assistant coach. All the Selvier and all that, they've been around since the Cornell days, right? If we have to make the change, take some of these guys that technically have earned it at this moment. That is, one of you guys will have you as the interim coach for the rest of the season. You have a chance to audition, to have the job, but we want to set proper expectations that we are looking for a head coach.
It's like MG boost the coach.
Do you guys bring in a coach during the summer transfer window? You can do, you're allowed to do.
I think they should just take the assistant coaches here, write it, because you will get a pass from fans as well, because we know you're an interim coach, and then continue. But having Olaf write it for the rest of the season, the stadium it will be just me, Jeremy, and Derek at City Park or Energizer Park.
But so hold on. So let's ask the question then. Here's another good one then. If they fire Olaf, and let's go move past whatever interim happens, when they appoint the next full-time head coach, does your next boss have to be a guy that has MLS experience?
Yes.
Well, have we seen it the other way in MLS?
I mean, Wilfred Nancy didn't, and he's one of the best coaches in the league now.
He came from Montreal, though. He had his progression of MLS until he was it because he got fired from Montreal, right?
That's right.
So he had that MLS experience to kind of see, and the pedigree that says yes. John Smith, I think but he's doing his work, Charlotte. So our former U.S. national players are doing well. Yeah. I don't see a foreign coach to do so well yet.
And one other thing that gets forgotten about Olaf that I actually just for some reason just pulled it out of my brain. He almost became the head coach in Toronto years ago, but the MLS blocked it. So it wasn't that he had never been on the radar of an MLS team before. He almost became the manager for Toronto. I don't remember what year that was, but then he ended up here years later. And I don't know all the details on why, but I thought that was interesting too.
So no excuse on not knowing the MLS then.
I mean, I think there's still an excuse because it's like going back to that interview scenario earlier. You can go into a job interview with basic research on the company and have a little bit of knowledge, but then getting there and doing that job is a completely different scenario. So, Jesper Sorensen is a great example. He's the new coach in Vancouver, as Tim Albashon puts in the chat. That's a great shout, Tim. He's had a fantastic run with the Whitecaps. I think they're in the CONCACAF Championship final of that Cup tournament too. After they beat Miami, but they went through a couple Liga MX teams too.
Yeah,
in that tournament. So
Brian White, that's playing out of his mind. So, I mean,
yeah. So, but
does that hurt?
No, it doesn't hurt at all with the form they're in. Anything else on the Colorado game? Any other takeaways? We've talked a lot about Lutz. We've talked a lot about that game. Before we get into a little preview on San Jose.
No, I think they just wanted it more. Colorado's shown that they have the youth, and Mihailovic is, even though we kept him from scoring, but I think that's the biggest difference I saw was that the youth and willingness to play. That's what was the X factor on that goal.
Derek, any last takeaways on Colorado?
No, I've said it all.
All right, so
it's a lot of rinse, repeat, recycle.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So we'll turn the page. So we've got another game coming up, boys. Match week 16. It's a home tilt this weekend at Energizer Park against San Jose Earthquakes, a rebuilt team. Bruce Arena back in the league, the head coach in San Jose, guy who led Team USA for through a couple World Cups as well. They come into the game. They are 2-3-0 in their last 5 with wins over Portland and this Rapids team that we just saw. They've also got a few draws to their credit, a 3-3 draw with Miami, also a scoreless one with New England, and then recently a 3-3 draw against Houston. Their away form, they are 2-1-3 this season on the road, currently sitting in 8th place in the Western Conference on 19 points, overall record of 5-4-6. They've scored 32, they've allowed 26. And of course, for those who haven't kept up on the Earthquakes, they were busy once they appointed Arena in the transfer window in the winter. They brought in Chicho Arango and Joseph Martinez, and those two have been on fire to start the campaign. They have a combined 15 goals between them, with Arango having 9 and Martinez with 6. Christian Espinoza also has 4 for the Earthquakes. Do we have thoughts, fear, any apprehension going into this game against San Jose at home?
How do you stop those top scorers with what we have in the backfield at the moment? And then also allowing whoever we're going to have starting up top to actually do their job without having to come back and do it. That's going to be the key, is how are we stopping them? And the creativity that they're going to bring forth.
Just to give you
the words out of my mouth. That's the first thing I saw. Those 3 guys, I'm like, oh crap.
Just to give you a little bit of the flip side for us, St. Louis winless in 11, beating the horse there. We have 11 points. We are 14th in the West, 2-5-8. Our numbers, we have 11 goals and we've allowed 20, so -9 goal difference. So the numbers don't paint a pretty picture, guys, on this game. I'm hopeful that we get a player update. I believe there's actually media availability tomorrow. I believe I'll have to double check that schedule. But as we look through this, there is media availability tomorrow. And again, then the press conference, I believe, is on Friday. But hopefully we get some kind of updates either tomorrow or Thursday. I really hope to see Henry Kessler back. The word on Kess was that he was close. It was just a matter of him not trusting his hamstring to be ready yet to be really put under the test. But he wasn't nursing a new injury. Hopefully we can get Horn back. I don't know the severity of the injury he had that caused him to miss the weekend, last weekend either. But we shall see either way. I'm still not extremely optimistic, guys. That 3-headed attack is daunting.
Jeremy, where do we stand with Leuven coming back since he started with City 2?
That's a great question as well. What I have heard is that he's back and will play home games, but that's not officially confirmed by the club yet. But that is what the expectation is. So playing 90 plus for City 2, I would not be shocked to see him in the match day squad, if not possibly getting a start against San Jose at home. Which, if that's the case, that does change the midfield, assuming you're back to the midfield of Leuven and Durkin, if you're running that same formation that we've been running out. So, I mean, I don't know what the changes to the back 3 would be aside from adding in Kessler or Horn, but let's say Kessler, let's say Leuven, and let's just hypothetically say you get well, let me ask it this way first. Do you go with Klaus, or do you say we make a change? Is it Klaus, Hartl, Toyshirt? Do you set Toyshirt, bring in Betcher? Set Toyshirt, bring in Silva or Pompeu? How do you change the team, if you change the team going into this game?
Well, we already talked about Pompeu and Silva starting.
No.
So we haven't talked about that?
Well, we did.
Or his lack of playing, yeah.
We've talked about the potential. Is this the game you do
I
it?
would say I would. What do you have? I mean, you're already behind.
Yeah.
So what's there to stop that? I mean, they bring out some speed to match your speed. I mean, let's try to keep the ball away from our hands.
Yeah.
That's
With
know,
this is gonna suck to say this, guys, and I hope I'm wrong. I see the attack that San Jose is rolling out statistically. And I really wonder if Olaf is going to do what he did against Austin, not to the extent of playing 8 defenders, but playing a more defensive game at home where you sit deep and counterattack. And if that's the case, to Aaron's point, maybe you start Betcher because of the pace and you add on a guy like a Pompeo or a Silva to have that breakout pace on the counters that you don't get in a Klaus or in a toy shirt. That would make sense to me. But I don't know if it's popular with fans to think about a defensive setup at home.
I think my problem with not starting with Klaus is that then you're taking a huge body out. And Klaus has shown that he's probably a little bit more creative at our center forward than we'll say for Betcher.
Okay.
I think that's the part that's kind of missing. And do we know if Betcher will actually track back a little bit to play in defense? Or are we going to keep him up as much as we can? And do we really want San Jose to have that much of a ball in our half? Because I think if we give him that much opportunities, they will be scoring a lot of goals. And Chucho literally, if you remember last year, he's the one that had a hat trick and butchered us when he was with Salt Lake. So now we're adding 2 more of his friends that actually knows how to score. It will be a long night.
So let me ask you
All
this.
day.
Does your choice between Klaus and Betcher change depending on who's starting at your midfield? Let's think about when Betcher is your workhorse. He's not as creative, but he is a runner, and he's going to take on another person. And his success has usually been when he's been fed the ball.
Yeah,
right.
If Durkin is in the midfield with Leuven, I'll feel better to have Betcher up.
That's what I was going for.
Yeah.
It's like, so if your midfield is different, looks different, you start Betcher over Klaus.
Yes, because I want what I guess I've probably told Jeremy multiple times, right? What I like to see in the midfield is that one, you have that creative maestro, which is Leuven or whoever wants to take that spot. And then you have that CDM that knows his spot, that he's not going to create chances. All he has to do is make sure that anyone that has the ball does not wear CD red, that's where Durkin is at.
Right.
And then let Leuven do what he does and then spread the ball over. And then if we have Silva and Celio, I think for me that's the scary combination is if Leuven is in the middle and he knows that he has Celio on one side and he has Silva on another and he has Klaus up here, we literally give him a triangle to do whatever he feels like with those players. That would be
right. And it depends on if you're going to get Pompeo and you're going to get Silva to move.
Yes.
If we got some creativity to move without the ball.
Yeah.
Well, and how much of a risk is Olaf ready to take? I think that's the other key. We've seen him play he does. But we've seen him play safe for weeks. So if he comes out and he plays an extremely offensive team that says, you know what, we're going to put it on the back 3 and maybe one guy in front of him to be our defense and everybody else just go forward, that it could be really good. It could be really bad, but he's got to take that risk to get a result. I think I don't think he gets canned tomorrow. I think he's on the touchline on Saturday. If we lose at home on Saturday afternoon, that might be it. I think that might be it.
That's a huge gamble.
You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah.
And for what it's worth, I know nothing. Do not listen to the words that come out of my mouth.
Because why are they listening to you now?
That's a good question, Derek. I don't know.
Do you really
we're all city sickos, that's why.
I don't know. Do you really? Does Olaf really wants himself to be at City Park at this moment?
I doubt it.
It's a dangerous place, man, for him right
Yeah.
now. It's man, you got to go eat. He's got to get some of those Aston Villa nerves of steel going on,
Yeah.
Like,
I think right now you just throw everything for that game because you are at home, and
right.
when you're away, you have a few fans, right? But now you're at home. The fans are doing their job. They're showing up. They're loud. Their job is done. So now the question is, are you going to do your side of the job and sitting like Austin? No.
Do you push Leuven up further than normal and have Durkin fall back more? Because lately, I mean, I've seen Leuven fall back more than he should. Because then our transition game could change a little bit more. Because again, you said he works magic. He is great at threading the needle. He's great at getting him out to who he needs to get him to.
And that's when he has Hartel right in front of him. I think Hartel needs to be in front of him and then Klaus. So that way, if he's not able to spread the ball out, then that's the 1-2 with Hartel. And say, now you can go up. Right. And no, you don't have to take the ball from our half. You're already in their half. That's where you push up and you're, a few more feet, then you're in the box and then you become dangerous. So I think that's the part here that's missing is that you either you spread it or one touch to who is going to advance it. That's how you get that crazy graph to go a little bit more open.
Yeah, and so I'll credit our own Charlie Billieu. He did ask Olaf after the game in Colorado about the formation. So to your point, Derek, yes, I think if Leuven plays, I think he gets pushed forward. We saw a more diamond midfield look at times in that game against Colorado, which Olaf admitted to post-game. So I think, to your point, if you get Leuven kind of as a 10.5, a 10. I don't know what you want to call that position. Maybe an advanced 8. I don't know. But you can have Toykert and Dirk and Hartel or whoever underneath. And then if you have your wing backs as Pompeu and Silva, just go forward doing overlaps. You've got guys in every single channel of half spaces to attack that goal. You will hopefully at some point have a minimum of at least 3 guys in the box for every crossing opportunity, which is another problem this team has really struggled with, is getting guys in the box on crosses consistently. But that could spell a lot of excitement if this team is going to go all out in the attack. And maybe we see it. I don't know. Either way, the thing with it is, do we see it? I've seen rumors and rumblings online that we're going to see a protest-ish from the supporter groups. Either a walk out or a walk in late if Olaf is still here. I'm curious to see how that plays out.
I haven't heard anything.
It was similar
really in those circles, but
no. Well, and so it kind of goes back to something Oscar had said last week, where it was talking about the band, specifically I think with Santos. Talking about either not coming in or not coming in at the beginning of the game, not coming into the 11th minute, or I think that was kind of I've seen similar things and rumors, but we'll see. But any idea of a prediction from you guys as we kind of near the 2-hour mark, which is our normal cue to get out of here?
It would be interesting to see, and it will be a message.
Yeah,
but also the European in me, I've seen other groups do it, but it was more of a combined thing. And like Oscar said, right, we think we still have very separated supporter groups.
Yep,
it's not one group or one person that speaks for everybody. If that was the case, then I see it more. But right now, there's too many groups that will have to say yes. And you saw in the Leagues Cup how that ended.
Yep. So, any predictions on this game at the weekend, gentlemen? Do we see a St. Louis win? Does the winless streak end?
Our guess, Derek, come on.
I'm going to say Man, it depends on what our starting lineup's going to be. I could give you a much more defined answer. If it's what we've been having and we've seen, and we're just rehashing the same thing week after week, I'm going to say it's not no. But if we're going to be able to bring in some of our injured players and some of our people that have not been able to play, I said, yeah, we may have a shot. And if we make a few changes here and there, like we've been talking tonight, I'd be like, absolutely. If we can get creative and be passionate, I would say yes. But I'd have to wait for that starting lineup to give you a real good answer. And I think all of us are going to get in that starting lineup and probably be able to text one another and go like, nope. yeah, we can.
Yeah, that's fair.
So which one will be, we'll say, your heart and realistically?
Realistically, I don't think so. I mean, my heart, I want them to win. You know, I mean, let's be honest. Even some of the starters I want to come back, they have not been playing for a while, and we all know that sometimes it takes a few, a game or two to kind of get your legs back and play at that level again, and do what you got to do. Maybe just them being on the field though may change some of the people that are out there currently, and be like they may feel more secure that they're there. Yeah. Maybe that does change things. You know, you feel a little bit more confident. You got a little more pep in your step. You know, but who knows?
Mo, do you got a score line, a prediction, win, loss, draw?
I will see a draw, the realistic me, or a loss. Pretty much, I think that's how I see it.
God, do I badly want to see a win, but I don't. I think we have a snowball's chance of that, and I don't think. I think the snowman that is Olaf is melting, and I think we're losing. And I'm going to go 3-1 San Jose. I think it's going to be a potential ugly one at Energizer Park, and I think it's going to be Olaf leaving to a chorus of boos, and then hopefully going to Lambert to get on a plane back to Sweden.
Wow, that quick.
I'm over it. I'm done with Olaf Ball. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm trying to.
Well, I mean, you got a coach coming in the arena who's, if you're playing the same system and playing the same tactics over and over, it's not going to be hard for him to dismantle you.
No.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, if you're not going to show him something new, then yeah. That's why when Mo asked me realistically and the things that what my heart says, I'm like,
Oh, my heart bleeds City red. My heart wants to be like 2-0 City and we party on Luligan Street after. But my brain knows better, and I won't let it.
I'm trying to figure out if I will actually make it to that game.
Aaron,
I think there's a dance recital and a slicer game.
All right, so Mo is busy. He might get spared from the torture that is going to City games.
I'll be watching. Look, come on.
Hey, I'm just here to watch Aaron go down to the front row of the North End and boo at the players. Okay, that's what I'm really here for, because he's got the courage to do it. I've seen it.
Aaron, no pressure, but but yes. So but Derek, definitely appreciate you joining in during a holiday weekend. You know, spending time with us crazy folks.
Had a blast.
How was it?
Appreciate it. It was wonderful. I had a wonderful time. Thank you very much for having me.
All right,
I'll do it again whenever you need me.
So you feel better? Therapy session worked out well for you?
Yeah. Yes. Well, Jeremy and I, we do therapy sessions through chat off and on.
Yeah.
So you just put it on wax now.
Yes. Now everybody gets to hear us talk about what we say through chat.
Yep. Fair enough.
That's how every podcast starts. Jeremy, any final words?
Thanks everybody for listening. Subscribe, share the video, like them. You know, do those things. The like, subscribe, share. Again, Derek, like Mo said, thanks, man. I appreciate you coming on, making the show. You are the man. And I can't wait to see all my crazy friends at City Park for more torture and maybe even a surprise win on Saturday.
That's all we need. But yes, and also thank you all for subscribing, because we hit 60 people. subscribers. So that's another great milestones. And also make sure you tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend that Top Corner Talk is on every Monday at 9 p.m. Central Time. We miss our good friends Charlie and Oscar, but family time comes first. So with that say, make sure you like, subscribe, and do all that fun stuff. And don't be shy. Let us know if you want to join the podcast. Derek survived it. He's still smiling. We don't bite. And I think Daniel said he's going to try to come in too. So we will have a lot more people coming in here. And it looks like MJ said he's going to start 8 a.m. with mimosas.
Hey, and look, Aaron's even got Charlie covered with the milk. We're in good shape, Mo.
Wow. Look,
Gang's all here.
Man, Charlie's not even here to make fun.
The running gag. Yeah, Derek,
yes, go ahead,
I'll catch you up on the running gag about the milk later.
All right, so with that said, City fans, thank you all for joining. I know it's late again. Enjoy the game. You will be entertained. Hopefully, Derek. But with that said, see you all later. Go City.